essential words there, morphe, homoiosis. These Greek words refer to the appearance of a thing, the way it looks from the outside. And I think what Paul is doing there is he's talking about the way Jesus looked from the outside in the course of his ministry. What does it mean for Jesus to have the form or the appearance of God or of a God? There's a book that came out, In the Form of a God, by Andrew Perriman. It came out just this or last year. And he argues that the background for that passage in Philippians chapter 2 is going to be a sort of a Gentile Christian background. And so the talk about Jesus as being in the form of a God, uh, first of all, it would say that Jesus was in the form of a God rather than in the form of God, because this way of thinking about powerful human beings as being like gods probably would have come quite naturally to people from a Gentile background. So what does it mean that Jesus was in the form of a God? Well, it means that he was very powerful, very wise. He had a great following. He could perform miracles and wonders and so on. I think when it says that Jesus was in the form of a God, it meant it had to do with his external appearance. He looked like a divine being, not like God himself, because God, of course, has no image or rather no form. But he looked divine. He performed wondrous miracles. He had great teachings. He had followers. But nevertheless, although he had the form of a god and he had the sort of the external appearance of a god, he humbled himself and he took on the appearance of a mere man. Another point that I want to make about the word there, when the word anthropos in that passage, when it says that Christ came in the likeness of men, homoiomati anthropon, I don't think that it means in the nature of human beings. I think what it means more is he was in the appearance of mere men. All right, the word anthropos sometimes can mean a mere ordinary man, not a human being, but a mere ordinary man, as opposed to something greater or more special. And an example of this, for example, is in Galatians chapter 1, where Paul says, I did not learn my gospel from a man, but from Christ Jesus. Now, he doesn't mean to say that Jesus Christ is not a human being. He means to say that Jesus Christ is not a mere human being. He's not just an ordinary Joe Schmo. So the word anthropos, especially when it is used in comparison with something greater, does not mean a human being like nature, but rather just a mere ordinary person, a mere Joe Schmo. So when Paul says that he did not learn his gospel from a mere Joe Schmo, but from Jesus Christ, I think something similar is happening here in Philippians. Christ had the form of a God, but he was made in the likeness of a mere man, an ordinary Joe Schmo. There was nothing special about him. He didn't walk around in robes. He didn't have a golden crown on his head. People didn't bow at his feet. He didn't live in a castle with a throne, eating out of silver plates and so on. He looked like an ordinary person. He humbled himself, even though he had all this power at his disposal. Like I said earlier, he humbled himself. He looked like an ordinary Joe Schmo. And this is especially true of him at his crucifixion, where there's nothing at all about him that suggests that he's a god. He's abandoned by all of his friends. He doesn't perform any miracles. Nothing spectacular happens to him, and eventually he's crucified. When Philippians chapter 2, verses 6 and 7 talk about likeness, form, appearance, and so on, I think it has to do with appearance. It has nothing to do with nature. Jesus is by nature a human being, but he has the form of a god. He has the appearance of a god because of the miraculous works that take place through him. And yet he humbles himself. He takes on the appearance of a slave, the likeness of mere men, because he serves others. He doesn't use his power for his own benefit. Rather, he uses it only for the benefit of others. And especially in his dying moments, he's totally alone. And there's nothing special about his external appearance at all. He's rather wretched. So that's how I would understand these verses. They talk about what Jesus looked like from the outside. They talk about the way that he, the impression that he would give people. And especially in light of his humility, humbling himself in the course of his trial, and at his trial, especially in the crucifixion, he just looked like an ordinary person.